Good afternoon, everyone. 4 o'clock straight up on a What the Frig Friday edition of Middays with Q coming at you, powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee inside the Fresh Roasted Coffee Studios. I'm your host, as always, Rich Quinones. We got about an hour to play with today on what's turned out to be another very busy sports. And I will say this for those of you that were trying to get on live with me at 3:30, I apologize for that. For those that were trying to get on live with me at 3:35, 3:40, 3:45, 3:50, I apologize for that as well. I have no idea what happened. I really have no idea what transpired. I don't. And I'm trying to work out all these kinks, and you guys see it, and it's a horrible sign. It's a horrible, horrible sign for me. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to lay it down for you. I'm going to tell you exactly why. At this moment, this is a horrible sign. This is not the way I wanted to start a Friday. It's not the way I wanted to go into the weekend, Memorial Day weekend. And everyone's going to be out grilling. And I wanted to try to run it through the other software. I had the ticker lined up. I had poll questions lined up. I had a great, a bunch of stats that I was going to plug and play today. And everything is basically let's just be honest, it's gone to shit. It's gone to shit. I mean, the fact that I've had to work this hard to try to get it up and running today, let you guys know that I don't want to disappoint the viewing audience, the listening, the fan base. And at 4 o'clock right now, a couple minutes past 4 o'clock, I'm already on my fourth cup of fresh roasted coffee. That's how nerve-wracking it's been. That's how nerve-wracking it's been for me today. Because not only am I trying to get these shows up and running, and here we go, but I'm also having to deal with the Knicks. I'm having to deal with a Game 2 tonight that will decide the series. Period. It will decide the series. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If the Knicks go out and lose tonight, they will get swept. I said it the other day. We're going to get into the NBA today. SGA with an MVP-like performance, kind of silencing the critics for those that thought maybe he shouldn't have been the MVP of the NBA. We will dive into that. These takes now that the whole LeBron conversation, where are we going to put LeBron in the pantheon of all-time greats? I mean, it just gets, after a while, it gets stagnant and it gets very old. The conversation to me gets extremely old and boring and tiresome, and a lot of people just don't want to deal with it anymore. And again, I said this years ago, right? Make the right comparison. Make the right comparison when we're looking at LeBron James. And there are many that still do not want to do that. So we will get into that. I also want to get into, and again, the quarterback conversation in the NFL. The quarterback conversation in the NFL. Once again, we're talking about it all week long, and then it comes to the forefront because once again, Chris Sims decides to just, take a shot at Jalen Hurts, take a shot at an MVP, take a shot at a Super Bowl winning MVP quarterback. And it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd that we're still having these conversations when it comes to the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. It makes absolutely no sense to me. It makes absolutely no sense to me. I mean, you can frame this any way you want, right? You can frame this any way you want. Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback right now in the NFL. Period. So, Eagles fans, relax, pump the brakes. It's okay. It's okay. Just enjoy your Super Bowl run. Enjoy what you have. Enjoy the offense. Enjoy the defense. Enjoy the all-world wide receiver, running back, offensive line, the tackles, good tight end. a hell of a quarterback, a head coach that just had this contract extension. Philadelphia, you should be happy. Got a new head coach in Tockett, which, I kind of, that was kind of whispered to me about 2 weeks ago that he was going to be on the radar. The Phillies are the Phillies. The Sixers got their issues. But again, it could be worse. It could be worse. It really could be worse. So, like I said, I mean, there's, you can be a Knicks fan, you can be a New York fan. And now you're heading into game 2 tonight, where I think, again, there are going to be monumental issues with the Knicks. I really do. I mean, folks, this is it, man. This is it. You cannot lose this game tonight. So we'll get into the football conversation. We will certainly get into, as I mentioned, the Sims's comments, which again, here we go. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. See, this is what I needed today. I needed this today. I need you guys to carry me through because I had issues with the Death Star mic. It wasn't rising again. It was looping. It was lapsed. It was lackadaisical. I got the Knicks choking in game 1. I need them to rise again tonight. I got my squad, the Jersey Shore Breaks, fighting for a playoff spot this weekend. You got the Yankees taking on a horrible Rockies team, which, by the way, we'll get into how bad they are. So I needed this. I need my commenters to lift me up. Man always comes through. That's what he does. The Death Star rises. And like I said, I owe you guys an apology because you tried to get on live with me at 3:30. That went to shit. You tried to get live with me at 3:35. That went to shit. You tried to get live with me at 3:45 and 3:50 and 3:55. All that went to the wayside. That's it. That is all that has gone on in the last 30 minutes. But you know what? You guys are with me. And as much as you guys are here for me, I'm here for you because I am going to squash the notion. We're going to get into the NBA playoffs. We're going to get into, obviously, the Knicks Pacers game 2. We'll get into what transpired again last night. SGA, 38 points, named league MVP. And we're going to get into this NFL conversation because once again, Chris Sims decides he's going to upset the apple cart. And that's all he's doing. He's just going to try to upset the apple cart. In no world, like this is what we want to do. We've had this conversation now for how long? When it comes to the quarterbacking play in the NFL. And I feel as though at this moment, it's a conversation that if you want to sit there and give any type of credence to it, it's all subjective. But you also have to be fair in this regard. If you're talking about who has played well over the last several seasons, or what quarterback has stepped up, what quarterback has stood out. And if you're a guy like Chris Sims, who, oh, by the way, played the quarterback position, didn't really play it at the highest level in the NFL. Phil Sims' kid, Phil Sims' son. But I feel as though Chris Sims does his list, and he does it just to get a rise out of some people. And that's one of the reasons that the Philadelphia Eagles fans are so up in arms already. They're so up in arms. Like, again, it's a hot take. Okay, you're not sold on Jalen Hurts being a top 5 quarterback. That's fine. But it's just state your case. Because you ultimately have to look at the body of work. Look, Sims is a former quarterback. He's now turned analyst. And this is what he does. He didn't put, Hurts on a list last season and everyone got bent out of shape. So he's on the herd with Colin Cowherd, who, oh, by the way, Colin Cowherd, I know he makes a lot of money and he's behind the mic. He's so ill-prepared. He doesn't do any type of prepping. He just doesn't give a shit. I mean, he just dicks around behind the mic and collects his check. I mean, he's bringing nothing to the table at this point. So he has Sims on. and basically talking about the revisionist history. You win the Super Bowl and everyone forgot about the 10 weeks before that. Who cares, man? Who cares? Who cares? He was in a slump. It happens. You got that offense and it's like a car and it's a stalled engine. But I mean, does that mean you're going to take away what he did during the playoffs? Does that mean you're going to take away what he did in the NFC Championship? Does that mean you're going to take away what he did in the Super Bowl? The numbers do not always have to be gaudy. They don't. We're so hung up by the numbers. We're so hung up by the stats. And again, to be fair, he didn't play the last 3 games of the season. He didn't play the last 3 games of the season. So everyone's going to sit here, and if you want to really be honest about the assessment and look, all right, he didn't particularly light it up against Green Bay, but he didn't have to because Saquon had the big game. He didn't have to really light it up against the Rams because Saquon ran for 200. He didn't really have to light it up against Washington because that game was a blowout. And in the Super Bowl, he made the throws that he had to make. And that's it. He made the throws when he needed to make the throws. And the Eagles went into the locker room up 24-0, right? You got the pick 6, 17 off that vaunted Kansas City defense. And if you look at Hurts' numbers for the game, he had a total of 300 yards. I mean, honestly, if you're fair, 221 and then 70 on the ground, he added a rushing touchdown. He threw for 2 and he had 1 pick. It was a bad pick, fine. But other than that, like what more do you want? What more do you want? Like if we're looking at these quarterbacks right now in the NFL and we're being fair, if you win a Super Bowl and you're Super Bowl MVP, doesn't that basically put you in that top, 10 status? And if you were arguably a couple of games and performances away from being an MVP a couple seasons ago when the Eagles started off 10-1, then had that slide, does that not account for anything? If we're always doing revisionist history, then if that's honestly the case, then I don't want to hear that Justin Herbert, who I absolutely love, Justin Herbert is a top 6, 7 quarterback. Because if you go by revisionist history, if you look at what have you done for me lately, well, here you go. I mean, look, Hurts rallied late. And again, he had a very good playoff run. And I just, you're talking about CJ Stroud's rookie season and a leaky offensive line, and you're kind of arguing that, hey, CJ, I think I would have CJ Stroud in his Hurts place on that tier. So Stroud's floor is higher, even if Hurts' ceiling includes a championship. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of revisionist history when we look at the quarterbacking play in the NFL. I don't get too go crazy over how a guy does ranking wise, right? I mean, Jalen Hurts has had to weather a lot of storms. He's been dismissed throughout the entire course, again, of his, college career, and now looks like his early NFL career. Imagine if we graded the Bunker Boys and what have their NFL comments done for us lately? Yeah, I mean, think about it. That's the Bunker Boys. They're a brash group of Eagles fans that love to attack the Q crew on the air. And, there's a problem with that. We have a problem with that. I'm so annoyed because I had my ticker ready. I had the picks. I got the Memorial Day poll question of the day, right? The Memorial Day poll question of the day, the Q question of the day for Memorial Day, which is right around the corner. Joey D, Somers Point, chiming in. Q, finally, what the hell? You got your audio issues. I mean, what are you doing? You're broadcasting on top of a mountain? I don't subscribe to what Sims, I mean, take it easy, Joe. I don't subscribe to what Sims is saying at all. If you think about this, Jalen Hurts plays in a really tough market, a tough media market, and he's with a very good franchise that has wall-to-wall great players. You cannot, Q, cause that to be a negative for him. I'm not, and I know what you're saying, and I'm not broadcasting on a mountaintop, but appreciate the wise-ass comment nonetheless. Monday Mark is chiming in on a Friday from Delaware. Q, we got to get you a better mic. I'm not really enjoying this. What do you call it? The Death Star mic? This is what you guys called it, the Death Star mic, so it's going to stand as the Death Star, Mike. But go ahead, Marcus. He continues to say, as you mentioned, it's very subjective when we talk about the quarterbacking play. You can have a great playoff run. All of a sudden, it is indeed, what have you done for me lately? It's almost like watching a fight. Those last several flurries late, does it change the tide of the round? I'm asking you as a boxing guy, will it sway the judges? If it does, then that's okay. Same could be said with the NFL position. If you go on a deep playoff run like this, you win a Super Bowl, you're MVP, you're automatically top 5. It's very, very, very subjective. And it's how you guys look at it. It's how you look at it. We went through this last week when we were talking about, the top 3, 4. There's a difference between being top 5 and being clutch, right? Top 5 and being clutch. What do we got there? Pete chiming in North Jersey. Q, I know you mentioned this a couple weeks ago about Belichick, but did you hear he might get hitched? I mean, do we want to go down that rabbit hole today with Bill Belichick? I still don't believe he's going to coach one game. I don't, with UNC. I just don't see that happening. I really don't. Am chimes in. Q, big time San Francisco 49ers fan. What'd you think of the new deal for Purdy? I know they're going to try to build around him. This team is getting a little older. As a diehard fan for the last 25 to 30 years, I'm a little concerned that the wear and tear is going to start to take effect on some of these players. What say you? That Purdy deal, we've got some Niners fans that tune in and appreciate it, commenting on X. It's a good deal. It's a good deal. Brock Purdy's before last season, before he got hurt and banged up. If you go by his 2023 season, when he threw for close to 4,300 yards, I think he had well over 30 touchdowns. He only had 9, 10 picks, added a couple of rushing touchdowns. He was a top 10 quarterback. He was definitely a top 10 quarterback. And then he dealt with some of the injuries and the numbers came down. So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter how you start. It's how you finish in the NFL. And I think a lot of these lists that we want to pigeonhole all these quarterbacks, we want to stick them in this list. We want to say this guy's got to be top 5. We know who the great quarterbacks are in the NFL. We already know. There is no debate. There is no debate with the handful of great quarterbacks in the NFL. We know Patrick Mahomes is still a great quarterback in the NFL. We know Josh Allen, MVP, great quarterback. Lamar Jackson, still a great quarterback. Does he need to make a deeper run into the playoffs? Absolutely. Jaden Daniels already bursting on to that rookie season. Are we going to catapult him in the top 5 right away or top 10? He appears to be a great quarterback, a very good quarterback. Jared Goff, by that measurement, by that barometer, then Sam Darnold last year should have been a top 10 quarterback. He was playing like a top 5 quarterback, but everyone's going to revert back to the playoff failure with Sam Darnold. And now all of a sudden, he's not top 10 anymore. Hey, Rich, this is who he really is. This is exactly who Sam Darnold is. Well, Sam Darnold, I think, was 4th or 5th in the league in passing yards. Geno Smith was 4th. Baker Mayfield was 3rd. Is Baker Mayfield a great quarterback? Is Baker Mayfield a top 5 quarterback? No. That's why it's extremely, extremely subjective. So when we talk about Joe Burrow, great quarterback, Josh Allen, great quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, great quarterback, Lamar Jackson, great quarterback, who you want to slide in for that 5th? Who do you want to slide in for that 5th? You want to slide in Jared Goff? You want to slide in Stafford? You want to slide in Daniels, Baker Mayfield? Who are you going to slide in? It's no longer Aaron Rodgers going to slide in Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud, Kyler Murray. Well, I would slide in the quarterback that's fresh off a Super Bowl win and an MVP performance. That's Jalen Hurts. If we're so quick to bump these guys, right? We're so quick to bump these guys and take them off the list because that's what we do, right? So we look at how they play, the style play, the stats, the numbers, and are they winning? And for my money, again, Hurts has shown you all he does is win. That's it. He's a winning quarterback in the NFL. So don't you take that into consideration? Or are we just so obsessed with the stats and we don't talk about the wins and the losses and the runs? Give me a guy that's consistently there every Sunday and you're winning your 10, 11, 12 games a season. You're making a nice deep playoff run. Jalen Hurts got to the Super Bowl 2 out of the last 3 years. I mean, does Sims think differently if Jalen Hurts, who outperformed Patrick Mahomes in that first Super Bowl, and the Eagles win? Jalen Hurts is MVP. So that would give him 2 Super Bowl MVPs. Rarefied air, by the way. Let's be honest, when you're talking about quarterbacks that have multiple Super Bowl MVPs, because there's a handful of them. So are we looking at Jalen Hurts any differently? That's why I just think I think, guys are so quick, right? Guys are so quick. I mean, look, Brady's got his 5 MVPs, Montana, Mahomes, Starr, Bradshaw, Eli. They've got multiple Super Bowl MVPs. So if Jalen Hurts would have won the other day, that's rarefied air. You're talking about 5 quarterbacks, 6 quarterbacks in NFL history, Bart Starr. 6 quarterbacks in NFL history who have multiple MVPs. So if this kid goes out and he wins another Super Bowl and he's another Super Bowl winning MVP, now all of a sudden you're talking about a quarterback that's gone to Super Bowl, 3 out of 4 years, should have won a 3rd ring if they win another ring next year. How are you not saying he's top 5? It just makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. Everyone's going to sit there and talk about the stats, man. But you know what? Sometimes you're not always going to put up gaudy numbers when you have an all-pro running back, right? I mean, if you have an all-world running back and you're relying on Saquon Barkley, who rushed for over 2,000 yards, then your number is going to drop a little bit. My opinion, right now, he's top 5. I gave you my top 5. That's my opinion. He's top 5. All right, 4:30 on a What the Frig Friday edition. You got to get to some of these comments as well. What do we got here? Matty G on TikTok. You can follow me there as well now. Rich Quinones and Mike. Q, absolutely. Jalen Hurts, top 5, 6, 7. As you mentioned, it's all subjective. You don't really have to dive too much in the stats. All he does is win. He was underrated in college. He's been underrated in the pros. I'll take him any day of the week and twice on Sunday. Yeah, that's an Eagles fan, and that's fine. That's fine. You should want that. Quarterback can play in the NFL is not that great. But you got a handful of guys that play great. Handful of guys that are consistently good. That's all. Consistently good. So I'm not going to get into this. When you look at the numbers, there are quarterbacks that have leaned on their ground game. There are quarterbacks that have leaned on their defense, but they still put up good numbers. They put up nice stats. They've won. All right. Speaking of winning, I don't know how, because of all the nonsense that happened from 3:30 to 4 when we were trying to go on live. Not only was I trying to stream with the platform and then go to X and then go to TikTok and go to IG and then go to the YouTube channel, everything just went haywire. That's a horrible sign for me. That's a horrible sign for me, and that's a horrible sign for my Knicks tonight, who I believe this is a must-win proposition for the New York Knicks. It's must-win. They cannot lose this game tonight after blowing that 17-point lead, then a 14-point lead, then a 9-point lead late in a game where the stats were like 0 for 1,414. And I really hope tonight is not one of these games where it's a fourth quarter game. I just want to sit and have the Knicks up 25 with like 5 minutes to go. But of course, as we saw from the other game, who knows what the hell's going to happen. And I need to see if this is a tight game late. Mitchell Robinson has to be on the floor for the New York Knicks. He has to be on the floor. I don't need Thibodeau to run these starters into the ground. I just don't. And Brunson needs to stay out of foul trouble. He's got to. He has to. You need him on the floor. But man, if they lose tonight, that would be absolutely demoralizing. It would. And I want to be positive. I don't want to be that negative Nelly. Right? I want to be positive. But man, I'm telling you, my gut just says that, you're blowing a 17-point lead. By the way, they were laying 5.5. Now it's bumped up to 6.5. You blew a 17-point lead late in the fourth. And I know that there's going to be a lot of energy in the Garden tonight. And I know that Brunson feeds off it and Cat feeds off it. And MSG is going to be juice. It's going to be electric. I would love to think this is going to be a blowout. I just don't see it. I don't. I just look, I wasn't one of these Knick fans. I thought they had a legit shot to beat the Boston Celtics. Okay. I'm getting rid of the negative thoughts, man. I am. I'm just being realistic. I want to be optimistic. And I thought they had, with all their horses, I gave them a puncher's chance against Boston. And then Tatum goes down. I knew the Indiana series was going to be a physical series. I prepared myself for it. But I've seen enough basketball over the years on many levels where you lose a game like that and it's very hard to respond. It's really hard to respond. And if this game gets tight in the fourth and then Naismith, Halliburton start going off and all of a sudden you're taking the airspace, you're sucking the life out of the Garden. That's a spot, man. As a fan, come 10-15-ish, 10-20, I'm going to be a friggin' wreck because I also believe this is their best shot. This is their best shot right now to make a run to the finals and maybe beat an OKC that looks like it's just going to, trek, just go right over Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals. I don't want to see this game come down to 3-point shooting. That's another thing. I mean, the Boston series, Boston was up a couple times in those games that were close, and then they had the big leads. They were shooting threes like they were down. They were up 17-20. They're shooting threes left and right. The Knicks, I don't want to see the Knicks chucking it up. I don't need to see Karl Anthony Towns chucking up from beyond the arc. I don't. Get your ass on the low block, man. Seriously. I don't care if you make a couple 3-pointers here and there, but you are a big man. Get your ass on the low block and put it on the floor. And if your shot's not dropping, then turn around and try to get to the line. Look, he should not be shooting more than 2 3-pointers a game. This guy's 8, 9, 10. As a team, collectively, 11 of 34. I mean, Indiana was scorching. They were 42% from beyond the arc and the battle of the boards. That was one of my keys. You have to win the battle of the boards. Tonight scares the bejeebuses out of me. I'm not a nervous Nelly. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm not trying to reverse mush it. The bottom line is, if this is a fourth quarter game, I might be beside myself. I might be beside myself. The Knicks have to win this game. They have to win this game. There's no dance around this. If they don't win, they're not going to win this series. It is an absolute fact. Fact. RJ chimes in. Q, talking about SGA. Did you think he validated his MVP performance with that performance last night? I thought he was the best player all season long in the NBA. RJ, appreciate the comment. The NBA, years ago, the argument was you can always give it to Michael Jordan. Even the year that Karl Malone got it, And it's a regular season award. So this kid wanted to go out and kind of justify that hardware last night, and that's what he did. He pumped in 38. I mean, that series has not been competitive. That series has not been competitive. And we should have kind of had an inkling of it, right? You're talking about a team that won close to 70 games and a team that won under 50. I'm not saying Minnesota's a bad team, but offensively, they're limited. Edwards had a big game. McDaniels had a big game. Randall didn't do anything last night. Gobert didn't do anything. Conley didn't do anything. Remember everyone was talking about the Sixers going after Mike Conley? Remember that conversation? Oh my God. All I heard was Sixers need to go after Mike Conley, give him a max contract, give him a max deal. He's absolutely been dreadful in this postseason. He's been dreadful. Look, Joker's a great player. Luka's a great player. Giannis is a great player, but they didn't have the type of season that this kid had. And a lot of times when you run through a conference, when you run through a division like they did, more times than not, I mean, it wasn't even close. The Rockets were the second seed in the Western Conference, and they won 52 games. OKC was the top seed. They were 68-14. 68-14. They came into the playoffs having won 8 out of 10, and they're pretty much making a mockery of it. I mean, they swept Memphis. They beat the Nuggets in 7, which was a tough series, and give the Nuggets credit because they're still 2 years removed from being a champ. And now you have a Minnesota team that's just it's a bad matchup for Minnesota. It's a bad matchup. I mean, look, Minnesota, this series shifts to Minnesota. The Timberwolves, they know this. If they don't win tomorrow, like I said with the Knicks, they're going to get swept. They're going to get swept, period. That's the NBA. Man says Knicks by 10 tonight. Again, I don't know. This game, we know in the fourth quarter how these games kind of play out. And that line's dropped, by the way. Now it's back down to 5.5. I don't see this kid, Neesmith, having the type of game or the type of fourth quarter that he did in game one. I mean, it was for the ages. It was historic. It really was. And the kid was just lights out. They need to body up on the perimeter. They need to guard the three-point line. They have to. They have to. Their rotation is so bad. It's disgusting. And Thibodeau has to have confidence in his bench. You can't run these starters ragged into the ground. You just can't. You just can't. And we've seen this. We've seen this time and time again. You run these guys into the friggin' ground, and they're nothing come the fourth quarter. Baseball question Q. Are the Tigers fielding the best team in the American League by using the entire team? They have the best record in baseball right now. You know, Vince, that's funny that you mentioned the Tigers because I know they are playing really good baseball. What are they? 33-18. Yeah, I know kind of, what you're saying. I think I know what you're saying in that regard. I mean, are we equating this to the Knicks talk and Thibodeau and the starters? Is that kind of what we're equating it to? Or are you just making a blanket statement about the Detroit Tigers, which, by the way, I did want to talk a little baseball today because I don't know if you guys have looked up, but the worst team in baseball right now, the Colorado Rockies got swept by the Phillies. It's the worst start. They are 8-42. Their run differential is -169. It's the worst start in, what did they say, 1895 after 50 games? 1895 after 50 games. My guy, US on X, the Stadium Boys, Jet fans. Q, did you see that Rodgers hints going to the Steelers? He asked if he would ever play for the Bears. He said no, but I believe there's a team that might play Chicago this year on a road trip. Yeah, I mean, Steelers, have fun with Rodgers. Have fun with that. Have fun with that. I'm still trying to figure out Vince's comment there. Maybe it went over my head. It's been one of those days on a Friday. I mean, you got fresh roasted coffee. It's a cold cup. That's a problem. The audio was on the fritz for about 35 minutes. I don't know what the hell happened. I couldn't fire off my banners, couldn't fire off my picks, couldn't fire off my commercial stuff. I just, it's been that kind of day. It's been that kind of day. Rhino in Northeast chiming in. Used to listen to me on the radio. Q, good to hear you back. Seems like some things never change. Audio issues, question mark. Ha, ha, ha. Listen, you know me. I'm a diehard Hurts fan. I wasn't the biggest Hurts fan coming out of college, but I see what this kid means to the franchise and the organization. I'm not even going to get into the offensive line, Saquon, the wide receivers, the tight end. At the end of the day, the quarterback has to make plays, and he's done it. In my estimation, top 5. All right, there you go. By the way, I threw this out. Speaking of, the top 5 kind of things with Memorial Day right around the corner, I'll throw this to you guys. If you are going to a Memorial Day barbecue or a Memorial Day picnic, party, gathering, you are invited as a guest. Are you bringing food and or drink? Because I've had this conversation with people. I've had this debate with others over the years. Are you bringing food and or drink? Because there is an etiquette involved. There's an etiquette involved, and few know that etiquette. I can tell you right now, you never go somewhere empty-handed. That was something that was taught to me at a very young age. You never go to someone's house empty-handed. You bring something. You bring something. You bring something. Could be a bottle of wine, could be, a beverage of choice, food, whatever. But you never, ever go somewhere empty-handed, especially when you're invited. And I feel as though I put it on X and like people were going nuts. Like the etiquette, the comments were coming in. Sarge chiming in. Q, absolutely. There's no way I'm going to someone else's house on the holidays or Memorial Day or a barbecue and a picnic. I'm not going empty-handed. I agree. But yet, I've seen people do that. Unless you go to the bunker. Ooh, unbelievable. You can compare it to the Knicks and Pacers because it does apply. So if the shoe fits. Whoa, Vince. What are we doing here? What are we doing? All I'm saying with Thibodeau is he doesn't need to run these guys into the ground. That's all I'm saying. And I'm wondering too, Vince, do you strike me as a guy that's bringing something? Are you bringing something to the barbecue? Are you bringing something to the Memorial Day picnic? Are you coming empty-handed? You seem like a stand-up guy. The Bunker Boys, they're not bringing anything. Like I said, they're a bunch of guys that are just in it for themselves. That's what they are. They're in cahoots. They commiserate together. One of them's not even on the chat today. He's not even chiming in. That's Trevor. He's part of that Bunker Boy crew. I don't know if he's chiming in. I don't know if he's going to pop in at any moment. He usually does. He's kind of like a late popper, a late bloomer. CJ chimes in. Q, absolutely. I'll bring a beverage of my choice. Could be a 6-pack, could be a 12-pack, could be a bottle. Start things off. You never go to someone's house empty-handed. Yeah, it's a rule of thumb. It is a rule of thumb, period. And people need to understand that. And I don't want Tibbs tonight, back to the Knicks and NBA. I'm sorry. You got to know when to go to the bench. That's all I'm saying, Vince. You have to know when to go to the Red Solo Cups. That's all right. That's fine. But again, you're bringing something, man. And that's half the battle. You're bringing something because you've got etiquette. And that's what it's all about. You don't go empty-handed. So many times, oh my God, you got people empty-handed. Listen, that's bad news. And they don't even stick around to help clean up. That is, again, insult to injury. Insult to injury. Let me see. Johnny C. from Newcastle chiming in on X. Q finally found the YouTube channel. Good to hear you back on the air. I was tuning into you when you were on In the Zone on 1290, The Ticket in Delaware. Glad to see you're not taking any callers. Ha ha ha. Inside joke. You can explain to your guest, by the way, which I will. My question for you is this. You talk a lot about the NFL. You talk a lot about the quarterback position and how it's a watered down position. But yet, in the same breath, you're saying there's 10 to 15 really good quarterbacks, but yet only 3 to 5 very good quarterbacks. Which one is it? So, okay, two things. Let me clarify here, and it's good to hear from you. And yeah, back in the day when we were taking callers on, 1290 on the ticket, they were just, some of these guys brought absolutely, some were very good and some brought nothing to the table at all. And it was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, get the frig off the phone, do something more constructive with your time, bring something to the table. That's what I always say. But to your question, the league is the quarterback positioning in the league. And we started to show off because of what Chris Sims said about Jalen Hurts. And yes, Mike chimes in. Bo Nix. Yes, Bo Nix is legit. Put a flyer on Bo Nix and Murray, potential MVP dark horses. Bo Nix is a big-time quarterback. He is not top 5. He's not great just yet, but he's trending up just like some of these other young quarterbacks. It's a huge year for guys like Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix because we look at what they did in year number 1, and typically NFL standards, you're going to take that jump to year number 2. Well, CJ Stroud came back a little bit. Richardson came back. Bryce Young, we know about those problems. But I believe Nix is in the right spot. He's in the right spot, period. Some would call Bo Nix a corporate addition to the Broncos. I mean, listen, anytime you belong to any type of corporation, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And I'll say this too. I will say this. What needs to be said, what needs to be emphasized, and I'm very delicate on what I'm about to say. I would caution the younger Knicks fan who might be ecstatic that the Knicks are in the Eastern Conference Finals, who might have been gassed up and juiced and souped during game 1 when they led late. I would caution those fans to just let the game unfold. That's all. That's all I'm saying. Let the game unfold. That's all I'm saying. But back to the quarterbacking conversation. There's 3 to 5, and we already know who they are. We had this conversation the other day. Allen, great quarterback. Mahomes, great quarterback. Jackson, great quarterback. Again, who else? Who else? Sorry, I'm just looking at some of these comments. You got Mahomes. You've got Jackson. You've got who else we got? Burrow is a great quarterback. And then I'm gonna stick Jalen Hurts right there, top 5. And by the way, I love when you guys chime in. I'm glad, Michael, new commenter. I'm glad that these guys seem like they would be a good fit when it comes to being a corporation. So I appreciate them checking out the show as well. All right, let me get to a couple more these comments as well. What do we got there? LJ chiming back in. Q. I heard you just talk a lot about the Boston Celtics Knicks series, and I know that you are a diehard Knicks fan. Let's be honest. If Tatum doesn't get hurt, are the Knicks really winning that series? I think they're on borrowed time. I agree with you. I think they actually get blown out tonight. They don't recover, and they lose the series in 5. Well, listen. I don't know if they get blown out. I feel tonight this is a game that comes down to there's X factors. I think Hart gives them unbelievable energy. I think OG gives them energy. They're not afraid to put the ball on the floor. They're not afraid to be decisive. I think Mitchell Robinson, I just can't preach this enough. He's got to be on the floor late in the game. And I'm not talking when there were 20-something odd seconds left. That's not what I'm saying. Celebrating a game before it's over is something a so-called Don would do. Oh, Bunker boys are being called out on a Friday. They're not even here to defend themselves. That's the problem. So if the Knicks can do that, if the Knicks can just, get into some type of rhythm and rhyme, you let Brunson do what he does. He doesn't have to, don't get him in foul trouble, but Tibbs is going to have to go a little deeper in the bench. And the problem is the Pacers want to get up and down the floor. That's what they want to do. They want to get up and down the floor, this phonetical, just absolutely absurd pace. The Knicks have to do a good job rebounding. They have to do a very good job of limiting second chance opportunities and points and transitional buckets and opportunities by the Pacers. If they do that, then yeah, I believe the Knicks can win this game. But I'm not going to, again, being objective as possible, the Indiana Pacers are not going anywhere. Everyone thought this was going to be a cakewalk of a series. I didn't. I really didn't. I felt as though ultimately it's just one of these situations where the Pacers can match their physicality and they can get up and down the floor. And if they can get up and down the floor with the Knicks and they can bang them and bang them and bang them, then guess what? It's going to be a problem. 2 questions. You guys want to talk? Joey? I'll let you guys argue those comments. I don't know about the hot dog eating contest. Look, you can bring hot dogs as etiquette to the barbecue. Memorial Day barbecue, by the way. You can do that. Would you trade the farm for Giannis to the Knicks? No, I would not. I don't care if Giannis has interest in the New York Knicks. I don't. Nope. I wouldn't do it. What are you going to give up? What are you going to give up? I know that people think there can be a trade made, but you have good chemistry right now. You have good chemistry. Look, he's going to meet with the Bucks again. And again, the issue is, didn't he just sign that contract? Like, these players get so bent out of shape. He's at a crossroad, right? Here's a guy that talks about loving Milwaukee, being loyal, and he wants to play his entire career with one franchise. So think about that. 3 things. He's loyal, he loves it where it's at, and he wants to stay with one team, which is by definition, that's your loyalty. Okay? On the other hand, he's competitive and he wants another championship, but it's not going to happen with the Bucks. It's not. And the fact that he was still in top 3 MVP voting, yeah, he can play, no doubt. He can play. No one's saying Giannis is a great player, but he's also getting a little older, getting a little more long in the tooth. Durant's not going to Philly. And Giannis, if he wants to stay with Milwaukee, he's got to understand they're going to rebuild, and they're going to do exactly what the 76ers were trying to prove to the fan base. They were trying to sell the fan base on the fact that they can build around Embiid. Cat OG in first round of protected picks. You want to give up? You want to give up a Cat right away, or Bridges, who actually has played well, giving him some offense? Are you kidding me? Not doing that. Absolutely not. I can't do that. Let it play out with this series, because ultimately, if the Knicks get bounced, then we can have this conversation. We can talk about what's been lacking. Where's the void? What are they missing? Do they have to go after a Durant? Do they have to go after a Giannis? Do they have to make that move? The Sixers might be in play. They might be in play. They got the number 3 pick. So again, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Ace Bailey? Because obviously people think he's got a bigger upside than the number 2, than Harper. And we already know who's going number 1. So the Sixers want to run it back with George, Embiid, Maxey, McCain, and whoever the hell is the number 3 pick is. And the thing is, you have a down Eastern Conference. Tatum's not going to be 100%. Lillard's not going to be 100%. So if the Knicks are healthy, if Philly's healthy, they're going to be right back there. And I don't know if you mess with that type of chemistry. That's all I'm saying. I don't know if you take a flyer on guys that are getting older. Teams love these draft picks in the NBA. They really do. They love these draft picks. Giannis is a great player. If he wants to be loyal and if he loves Milwaukee and he really loves the people in the franchise, then his ass is going to stay in Milwaukee. You can't be a little pregnant. You can't. You can't sit there in one breath and tell me you love working for me. I'm a great boss. You love your position. I give you leadway and flexibility. We've given you bonuses. I've given you bumps. I've given you raises. You can take vacations. I don't bother you because you perform and I'm getting a great return on my investment. And you say all this on a Friday. And then you come back in the office on a Monday and then you want that new raise. You want that new position. You're looking at other jobs. But if you're telling me you're happy and you're content and I'm doing everything I need to do to keep you around and keep you engaged and keep you happy, that's one thing. But then to flip and change it, see, Giannis is looking around and he's realizing I can get another championship. And he's realizing it might not be with Milwaukee. And that's okay. Hence the rub. That's where he's torn. He's torn from the loyalty. But my thing is, don't tell me you love it here and you love the franchise and you love the players and you love the community and you love your teammates and you love the Bucks. But we're talking about getting married and we're going through all the pros. And I'm like, hey, I'm giving you this 20 something odd list of great things you do and why I love you and why I want to be together with you forever. And then all of a sudden you're doing the list to me. And all of a sudden that list is maybe like, I got 10 and 10 pros, 10 cons. Well, which one is it? Right? Because once you start walking down the altar, you better not start looking for a better deal. And I think Giannis's mind is in the clouds right now because he's not sure what he really wants. That's why he's saying what he's saying. Which should be more valued, an unproven draft pick or an aging superstar when you're on the cusp of a championship? Well, it's a great, great, great question. And you're talking about if you're top 5, you're not giving up that draft pick, right? So if you're in the Knicks boat, and again, unproven draft pick, you're also talking about if you're on the cusp of a championship, does he automatically put you over the top, though? There's no guarantees in life, my friend. I mean, the Brooklyn Nets thought getting KD was going to put him over the top, and then he tore his ACL. He tore his ACL. I want to see what the Knicks can do right now. I want to see what they can do tonight. Can you even up the friggin' series? Can you even up the series? Can you take back home court advantage? Can you beat the Pacers? That's get through this series, get to the NBA Finals. We're talking, or you guys are talking, and that's okay, as if they're already bounced and you're looking off season. You got a game tonight, you got a game Sunday. I hate the way, remember back in the day, you would have the back-to-backs 2-3-2. I hate the way the NBA's laid this crap out. I hate it. You get them on Sunday, that's a travel. They go back to Indiana. Here we go. Nothing on Monday and then back there Tuesday. We're going to know. If I'm coming on the air Thursday and we're talking about the Knicks potentially having an opportunity to go up 3-2 or to close out the series, it's a great conversation to have. It's a really good conversation to have. And again, you're right. Draft picks, unproven draft picks, that's what they are. They're unproven. But you also have to think about it like this. At any moment, man, these guys can get old fast. They can. They can. Just because he says New York is his favorite city, that doesn't mean anything. Remember the rumor years ago, LeBron's looking for high schools in Philly, and everyone thought LeBron was going to Philadelphia. I mean, I don't know. The NBA is tricky, man. If you got an opportunity to win a championship, then here you go. Here you go. That's it. All for money, one game to watch at a time. Now the playoffs are 2 months long. Yeah, I remember, years ago, you'd get that 2-3-2 and you would play back to back. I mean, the NBA, we talked about yesterday. It's a great point that you bring up. That's a really great point that the man brings up. We talked about the NBA season being long. We talked about the NFL potentially going 18 to 20 games and how it would really get stretched out. Now you're talking, you start right before Labor Day and you're going all the way into March. NBA, to his point, okay, we're looking at what for the finals? If these were going to be 7-game series, the finals is we're bleeding the finals into June. Mid-June. That's a long time. Then you've got July, August, and then September. You blink, and boom, it's October. And prior to that, training camp, right? Father Time is undefeated, but you have to go for it. You have to, but again, what are you risking, right? What are you risking? Place your $1 million bet. Are you taking the 94 Knicks or these current Knicks? 94 Knicks were just 94 Knicks. 94 Knicks were my heart, man. The 94 Knicks, I mean, you saw them. They were the 93-94 Knicks. That was my team. It wasn't the 92 Knicks, and everyone talks about the 92 Knicks. They won 60 games and they lost in 6 to the Bulls. Everyone remembers the Charles Smith game. It wasn't the 91 Knicks. Hell, I remember, the 89 Knicks I love too. Stu Jackson, they were down 2-0 to Boston, went to Boston, won a game 5 on the road in Boston, and the big man, Pat Ewing, with a three-pointer off the glass late. I love that squad. I love the 88-89 Knicks with Patino. I love that team. They swept the Sixers in 3, and then they lost to the Bulls. But the 93-94 Knicks, that team was just a different animal, man. That team was just a different animal. They had a great blend of players, and they had role players that people forget. Ro Blackman was on that squad. Derek Harper could have been named MVP of the finals if they would have won. You had Doc Rivers. You had Doc Rivers on that squad. Obviously, you had Patrick, you had Johnny Starks, you had Herb Williams, you had the Oakman, you had Mason. Mason came out of nowhere. Anthony Mason came out of nowhere. CBA. Mason came out of nowhere and then cut his teeth. He bounced around New Jersey, Denver, and then he played with the Knicks for what, 5-6 years? That team was built a different way. 92 Knicks up 2-0 on Chicago. 92, you are thinking of the Charles Smith. So you're thinking of the Charles Smith series. So the 92 Knicks, 91-92 Knicks, the 91-92 Knicks, they won 50-something odd games. They beat the Pistons in 5, and then they lost to the Bulls in 7, right? Because that Bulls team was just ridiculous. The 92-93, that was the series that you had the Starks dunk, if you remember. You had the Starks dunk, and they were up 2-0. That's the Charles Smith game. That's the Charles Smith game. I mean, and that game haunts me. I mentioned that on the air yesterday. That was 92-93, and he got blocked 4 times. It was one of the most painful losses in Knick history, because if they would have won that game, they're up 3-2. They're going to close out the Bulls. And Bulls fans don't want to hear it. The Knicks were just as good, if not better than the Bulls that season. They matched up really well with the Bulls. The Bulls went on and they had a tough 6-game series against Phoenix in the finals. But that series, the Knicks and the Bulls, I mean, man, the Knicks took the first 2 games. And then game 5, Patrick Ewing was unstoppable. He had like 35 points, but late in the game, Smith got rejected. That was a 3-point loss. All he had to do was dunk it and throw it down. He couldn't do it. And then the Bulls closed him out. I think they won by 10 back in Chicago. Great. Tommy Chambers was a great player. Second most overrated dunk in NBA history. Oh, Tom Chambers, I agree. Not the Starks dunk. Not the Starks dunk. No. That was a great Game 7. Starks' performance still hurts. Yeah. I mean, John Starks shot the ball in that Game 7 like Dennis Johnson shot the ball in 79 in the NBA Finals. I mean, the numbers were comparable. They were comparable. Starks was what, 3 of 18? 3 of 18. And I should say Game 7, 78 for Dennis Johnson, because 79 he went off. He had like 32 points. He went off. 78 he didn't. He was 0 for 14 from the floor. Starks had a horrible Game 7. And if you remember too, Olajuwon blocked that coffin corner 3 in Game 6. If you remember, I mean, oh man, the Knicks should have won a championship. They should have won a championship. They hung around in Game 1. They went on the road and stole Game 2. And then they come back and they lost a heartbreaker in Game 3. And then they won a white knuckler in Game 4. And then they win Game 5. In Game 6, Houston was just a better team. They were just a better team. But again, they had opportunities to win that series. Olajuwon, Hakeem, you just couldn't guard him. And then Game 7, Starks was he was horrible. Sometimes your shot just doesn't fall. And he was 2 of 18. But really, no one shot well in that 7th game. The only one that really played well was Derek Harper. In that 7th game, Derek Harper had 20, 25 points. Derek Harper would have been the MVP. He would have been the MVP. Pippen dunked on Ewing regular season or the playoffs. You mean the most disrespectful dunk of all time? I think that was a playoff game. That's when the NBA was the NBA. I don't care what anyone tells me. It doesn't matter if you're a 20-year-old fan, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. The NBA in the late 80s to the 90s to the mid-90s to the late 90s, that was it. That was it, period. That was when basketball was basketball. And all of that, if you think about it, was because the NBA was struggling so bad, and then you had Magic, and you had Bird, and then obviously you had Jordan, because it was a changing of the guard. I remember as a kid, you're watching those late games on the West Coast. Tom Chambers, I'm watching Phoenix, I'm watching the Lakers, I'm watching the Clippers, I'm watching the Suns, I'm watching Dallas on TNT late. That's how fanatical I was. I mean, hell, you go back to the NBA Finals, and if you guys remember, what is that NBA Finals so what's the historical reference? 1994 NBA Finals Game 5. What does everyone remember? Right? Early 2000s weren't bad. You had a bunch of stars and all-stars on their own teams. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, TNT. USA had some games too they carried. But remember, what was Game 5, 1994, NBA Finals? What happened? Come on. You guys are going to be quizzed on this. It was the car chase. It was the Bronco chase. It was OJ. And I remember my father and I were watching that game when they started to cut away. Every time NBC cut away, we went into the garage and we listened to a small portable radio, WFAN, which was carrying the games. And I would have to sprint and be like, all right, does NBC cut away? And they would show the split scene, the little screen or little picture. Remember that back in the day? Jovan, what? 3 years old? Come on, Jovan, you don't remember the car Bronco, O.J. Simpson? Come on, man. All right, you're young. That's fine. But, history, brother, history. But that was it. Game 5, NBA. My bad. NBA Finals. Maybe I'm just that old. But I remember, I just remember that was when the NBA was the NBA. And you had those rivalries, the Pistons, the Knicks, the Celtics, the Bulls, the Celtics, the Knicks, the Bulls, the Knicks. How about those Heat series? This is why when people sit there and say the NBA playoffs are not exciting, or the NBA is a watered down sport, I totally get bent out of shape with that. I don't buy into that theory at all. I think the NBA, you have to play more defense. Again, yeah, you couldn't wait for the games to start. You couldn't. And the other thing is, remember, you would get the NBC NBA on NBC, or you would get the theme music, live from Madison Square Garden, like Game 5. You knew that was it. Tom Hammond, Skipper Jones, Bill Walton on the call. I mean, it was fantastic. The same could be true with the NFL back in the day. Growing up as a kid, or, for even some of the younger guys, we were never, when we were watching these games, on a Sunday night, I say this all the time, on a Sunday night, when you would hear the ticker, Pat and John and Pat Summerall would start to read out, following the game, 60 minutes, except on the West Coast, Murder, She Wrote. And then the Sunday night, movie Jaws. You're like, shit, I got to turn around and I got to go to bed. Yep, Hubie Brown. There you go. Right, Hubie Brown. You must remember Herb Williams averaged 13 points and 16 rebounds in college. Yep, Hubie Brown, all-time great. But that, again, Czar the Telestrator, Mike Fratello, exactly. We're going to break it down right here. Why Patrick's getting his lunch eaten up by Hakeem Olajuwon. We're never going to get to that anymore with these broadcasters, these games, these leagues, these matchups. We're just not. When Pat and John were doing a game, you knew it was a big game. When Musburger was saying you're looking live at Giant Stadium, a sold-out Giant Stadium, you knew it was a big game. You knew it was when you're getting some of these games and they're West Coast, and you're like looking around, you're seeing NBC with the shots of the San Diego beach, or CBS or Fox, out in San Francisco at the Stick. You knew it was a big game. And they had the best and the big time announcers doing those games. I think Breen does an excellent job. I think he's a fantastic broadcaster. I'm not a fan of 3 in the booth for the NBA games. Like, honestly, I don't need to hear Reggie Miller. I don't. Does Jordan 8 Pete and beat Houston twice during the Rockets back-to-back? Man, it's a great question. So, the Rockets were very good in 93. I don't believe 93, 94. I don't believe the Rockets were as good in 1994, 95, if that makes sense. So 94, they didn't even win 50 games, but they beat a very young Orlando Magic team. They swept them. I mean, that you knew watching that series, if were the Rockets going to be able to get past the Bulls that year? I don't think so. I don't. That series, again, you go back, what is that series known for? Game 3. And it was the foul shots that were mixed. I mean, that's kind of, that was a sweep. Jordan, yeah, I believe that they had the horse. And now remember, they were getting a little older, right? They were getting a little older, and Ho Grant, and Pippen was getting older, and Ho Grant was with Orlando. But yeah, if that Bulls team in place, because hell, without Jordan, the Knicks only won that series in 7 games. So, I mean, think about that. How do you feel about NBC getting the NBA rights back? I'm fine with it. I'm fine. Like we said the other day, everything when we were talking about these networks, I think the NBA belongs with NBC, but I do enjoy TNT because I know some of you guys have said this to me in the past. You don't care about pregame shows. I'm a big pregame show guy. I am. Like, I believe CBS's pregame show, the NFL Today, I think it's the best. I don't even watch Fox anymore, but I love TNT because I like the synergy, the chemistry. I think they're entertaining, to be honest. They have fun, whether it's Shaq, Charles, Ernie's great, Kenny Smith. I think it's, they do really good, and they're opinionated, and you need that. You don't need the robotic stuff anymore. Like, we're past, you don't need to be buttoned up. You can be a little loose. You can have an opinion. You can have a little fun with it. and they work because they have a good team and they all understand their roles. And I used to really enjoy a lot of the other pregame shows, but then it got way too watered down with nonsense. And quite frankly, don't dumb it. Like, you don't need to dumb it down, but you also don't need to make it where you think, like, guys, a lot of talking heads, I think a lot of analysts, they they throw stuff out, and they almost want to sound like they're the smartest in the room, right? I don't need to care. I don't care about, wingspan or arm length or pushing the ball. You know the phrases that I can't stand. Pushing the ball down the field. Like, what? Just keep it simple. We're all guys. We played sports. We watch sports. Keep it simple. Hakeem Clyde. Ooh, Sam Cassell, big time Sam, would be on a long list of superstars Jordan denied a ring. Yeah. Yeah. Malone, Stockton, Barkley, Ewing. I mean, think about it. Think about all the Hall of Famers that have played with Michael Jordan, against Michael Jordan, and all the players he denied an NBA championship. It's remarkable when you Gary Payton the glove. Yep. It's remarkable when you think about it. Kemp, Reggie. Yeah. It is. It is. That's one player. I mean, the Bulls were a dynasty. You're talking about three-peat, a lull, 2 years, could have won 8 straight. Could have won 8 straight, which is just unheard of. You go back to what the Celtics were doing with Russell and those guys. That's why the game today, and to Michael's point, it's one of the other things that bothers me as a fan. Guys are so willing now to just jump. They're just they and Giannis, he already got his ring. I get it. But guys, they're front runners. Like Durant, LeBron, they're front runners. If I can't beat you, I'm going to join you. Back in the day, think about if you go back to the late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, think about a monumental, trade. Like a monumental, oh my God, they just went out and got this guy. It is a done deal. I mean, we're talking about Pippen when he went to go play with Portland or Houston. Say Barkley, Barkley, Philly, Phoenix. Again, you just they don't do that anymore. They don't. They don't. The game has changed. The players are better. No one's arguing that. No one is arguing that. But this super team, I don't like it. Karl Malone, late in his career, was trying to win a ring. Gary Payton win a ring with the Lakers. And it didn't pan out. It didn't. It didn't. Vince, hockey take. Oh, here we go. A little hockey talk, huh? Are the Florida Panthers the new dynasty like the Penguins of the 2000s, Rangers of the 90s? They look pretty unstoppable in a rematch with McDavid's great for the game. Florida's a very good team, but I would say, look, Edmonton back in the day, the Islanders, Arbor's Islanders winning 4 straight, that was a dynasty. The Edmonton Oilers, dynasty. Pittsburgh, you can talk about them with Lemieux and Crosby, dynasty. Detroit, dynasty. I need it to play out a little more. It's great. I mean, listen, it's great when you have an opportunity, again, to keep getting back to Stanley Cup finals and you're going through your conferences, and you're winning Stanley Cup finals, especially for teams that were franchises back in the day, expansion franchises. I mean, the Panthers are a very, very good team. And right now, yeah, you're right. I mean, they got the Hurricanes up against the ropes. They got them up against the ropes. But I'm not – those teams that I just gave you, Vince, those were dynasties. Those were when you're winning Stanley Cup Finals. No, you go back and you look at the 1980s, and you're talking about the Edmonton Oilers. You're talking about the Islanders. Those teams were legit dynasties. They were legit. You're winning, 2, 3, 4 Stanley Cups in a row. We're not going to get to that point anymore. We're never going to get there anymore. And a lot of people argued what dynasty was better, the 80s Islanders or the 80s Oilers. But then to your point, Detroit, Pittsburgh twice over, those are dynasties. Those are flat out dynasties. Panthers are the new Tampa Bay Lightning. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. American All-Stars versus World All-Stars would be great to watch. Are we talking about in the NHL? Right? Back-to-back Eastern Finals and maybe back-to-back Cups. Not yet, though. Back-to-back is very impressive. Oh, NBA. Back-to-back is very impressive. I want, me, when I sit there and say dynasty, give me 3 out of 4. Give me 4 out of 5. Give me 3 out of 6. 3 out of 5. That is a dynasty. And then it doesn't even have to be back-to-back-to-back. And to Madman's point, NBA All-Stars versus World, you start tapping into the European market. I mean, that's why the NBA, everyone can sit there and say the NBA is struggling. I think that's a crock. If the Knicks make the finals, you're talking about a major market. People are going to watch, period. People are going to watch. People are going to watch. And I think if you match them up, the NBA, we saw what they were able to do in the Olympics. Dominate, constantly dominate. And I think they would do that as well. 3 out of 4 or 5 even possible with the way the teams move players now. I think it is. I think look at the Vegas Knights, right? I mean, they kind of burst on the scene, and everyone all of a sudden wanted to start to say, okay, here we go. This team could be, the Knicks, the great young expansion, dynasty. They kept some of their players, did they not? Right? I mean, they won a championship. They won a Stanley Cup. So, they're a very good franchise. I can't compare it with those, a lot. Now I'm getting the hockey guys chiming in on X. I haven't gotten some of the comments. I just can't compare it to those old teams that were winning 3, 4, 5 times. Let me ask you guys this. Is it harder, in your estimation, is it harder to go back to back in the NHL, the NFL, baseball, or the NBA? To win back-to-back titles, you guys as sports fans, is it more challenging to do it? Hell, look at the NBA. You're an injury away. NFL, I mean, that's, a lot of times you lose a Super Bowl, it's very hard to get back. Kansas City won a Super Bowl, and then, they're trying for a three-peat, and they got bumped, right? I don't know, man. I don't know. I think for me, it's very hard in the NFL. I really do. I think it's really hard in the NFL to do it. Sarge chiming back in Q. It's got to be the NFL. The way free agent is, the way these contracts go, the wear and tear, especially if they're going to stretch a 16, 17, 18 game schedule to eventually a 20 game schedule. It's got to be the NFL. Yeah, maybe. It's tough to do. Matty G chiming in Q. A little hockey talk on What the Frig Friday edition. I love it. And you're right. I'll sit there and tell you right now, I think it is definitely these teams. They have younger players. They really dive into the Eastern market, the European market. You look at some of these fast skaters. Goaltending is always goaltending in the playoffs. So if you go and think about this, if you go back and you look at the last, this kind of tells you where we're at. There was a run in the 70s where Montreal, Boston, Philadelphia Flyers went back-to-back in 74 and 75. Canadians won it 4 straight. This is incredible. The Canadians won it 4 straight seasons. That is a dynasty. 77, 78, 79. I'm sorry, 76, 77, 78, 79. The Islanders then won it 4 straight times. Then Edmonton won it 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 out of 5. Canadians won it 1 year in 86. Keep going, keep going. You had the Devils. Remember the Devils made their run with those teams? I mean, the Devils were a great team. Detroit won it 2 straight seasons, I believe. They went back to back. Dallas had that year. Remember that controversial goal in their Stanley Cup Finals. But to some of you guys' points who are chiming in, Florida, Vegas, Colorado, Tampa, St. Louis, Washington, Pittsburgh, Chicago. I'm keep going. Look at the last time a team from Canada won the Stanley Cup. That's crazy. 1993. 1993. Oh my goodness. 1993. Long time. Edmonton's problem has always been defense, not scoring. Dallas is a tough matchup. I think Dallas can beat Florida in a tough series. Yeah, listen, that would be a very competitive series. I mean, the odds, just before we get out of here, right now as it stands, the current odds, Panthers are still the favorite, plus 125. Wow, that is a long time. I'd have do a double check on that. The last time a Canadian team, a team from Canada, won the Stanley Cup Finals, 1993. Is that the year they beat the Kings? What was Gretzky was on that King squad, right? Wow. You had the lockout, and then you had Carolina, Anaheim, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Chicago. I remember that Chicago series when they beat the Flyers. Remember that Patrick Kane goal in overtime? Everyone thought it hit the post and it actually hit the net. That was hilarious to watch as a Rangers fan because the Flyers fan were beside themselves. Yeah, 93. That is unbelievable. All right, before we close it out, give me a prediction tonight, game 2, Knicks and the Pacers. I'm going to say the Knicks win it. They're not covering. I have a feeling it's going to come down to a last possession again, and maybe this time Halliburton misses the front end of the rim. That's what I'm hoping for. Let me get in a couple more before we get out of here. G in, where is he? Northfield. Chime in. Q, you always have to bring something to a barbecue. Where the hell's your etiquette? Knicks by 6. Man says Knicks win 118-108. Sarge says Pacers by 15. Matty Ice says Pacers by 10. Ooh, oh my God, this is going to be nerve-wracking tonight. All right, I got to get primed and get ready. By the way, you guys were fantastic. I am going to breathe. I'm going to take the dog for a nice little decompression walk. We're going to wash up. We're going to spritz up, get a little hair gel. We're going to woosah. We're going to do it. I'm going to try to stay calm, make a nice little chicken, little veggies, sit down, 7 o'clock. The phone will be off. The phone will be on airplane mode. Many know what that is. The phone will be muted, silence. And Knick fan, I implore you, let the game just unfold. Let it unfold. Another amazing collapse for the Knicks. See, this is the shit that just takes the show down to a level I don't want it to go. You guys have gotten me. You guys fought. You scratched. You basically you've lifted me up today, and then Vince comes with this. Vince comes with this nonsense because Vince is still pissed that the Steelers haven't signed a freaking quarterback. He wanted Sanders. I was so calm. I enjoyed almost 2 hours on the air with you guys after working through audio issues, knocking me off, the dog barking, couldn't get my microphone to work. The Death Star mic started to turn around and just bleed out. And I was good. And now look what you've done. You have unhinged me, Vince. You are the person that goes empty-handed to the barbecue. Don't tell me otherwise. I will not believe it. You walk in and the first thing out of your mouth is turning around saying, where are the burgers? Where are the burgers? Where are the drinks? Where's the chips? Where's the potato salad? Where's the chicken? You come in empty-handed. Might have to put a ban on Vince. That's unbelievable. We were doing so well. You guys literally were walking me back. I was fine. I honestly, fine. For almost 2 hours on the air with you guys. And I love that you're with me for that long. I was fine. I was not unhinged. I wasn't turning beet red. I wasn't starting to sweat. I was getting through my third cup of fresh roasted coffee. Don't forget, the picks brought to you by Fresh Roasted Coffee, 20% off your first purchase, BYP20. And then Vince has to come in and says an epic collapse. I need a ruling, by the way. I need a ruling on that comment. I believe that's not fair. That's foul. I believe that's foul. And I think a lot of it has to stem with the fact that he does not want to admit he is still a Steelers fan. He doesn't want to admit he's still a Steelers fan. But I'm going to need a ruling for that. I mean, this close. I'm almost done the cup. Unbelievable. You know what, Vince? I'm not going to let you drag me down on a What the Frig Friday version of Middays with Q. Powered by our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. You know why? Yeah, that was a low blow, but that's okay. Yes, that's exactly what he did. You know what you did? You know what you did? Yeah. Yeah. That's a prick move, Vince. That is a rat-like move. That's exactly. You know who would do something like that? The B-boys, the bunker boys. They would do something like that. They would try to suck the life and the air out of me as I'm getting off the air. I'm in a good mental spot. I'm in a good mental space. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling confident about the Knicks. Game 2. It's got to be there tonight. Got to win it. Make your march. Get ready. Here we go. NBA Finals. I don't care if it's going to be OKC. I don't care if it's going to be the T-Wolves. The Knicks are going to give me something I haven't seen in my lifetime. An NBA championship. And then you come out of nowhere. What can I say? I look up to Draymond Green. Well, there you go. There you go. That's it. But that's fine. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to dial it back. I'm going to dial it back. I'm going to take the pup decompression walk. I'm going to maybe little steak, little chicken. I'm going to zen it. I'm going to woosah it. I'm going to woosah it. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to breathe in. I'm just going to breathe in. Just find the strength for the Knicks tonight. I'm going to zen it out. I'm going to channel it. And then you know what's going to happen? The Knicks are going to win tonight. The Knicks are going to win tonight. They are going to win 126. They are going to win 126 to 117. And you know what, Vince? On a Man Up Manolo Monday edition of Middays with Q, you will come on and you will publicly apologize for trying to mush and kibosh me and also trying to zap my energy, which I won't allow you to do. All right, boys. You guys have a wonderful Memorial Day. Be safe, be sound. Yeah, you will. Yeah, it will be a Memorial Manolo Lunas Monday Man Up edition of Middays with Q. It will be, and you will do such a thing. You have been put on notice. You have been put on notice, and you are secretly a spy for the Bunker Boys. That's even worse. That's even worse. This was supposed to be a no judgment zone for the show, but now you've made it personal, my friend. You made it very personal. You guys have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. If you're out and about driving around, please be careful. Michael has last word on it. 126, 117. Yes, lock it in. Lock it in. Boom, boom, boom. You're good to go. Knicks win it. And I believe if that's the case, hopefully they win on Sunday. And I believe we'll talk 2-1 Knicks with the lead, or, who knows, if it's 0-3, we're going to have some problems on a Lunas Manolo Man Up Monday at Middays with Q. Appreciate you guys hanging with me all day long. You guys are fantastic. Have a good Memorial Day. Be safe, be sound. Enjoy your sports weekend. Give me a follow on social media at Rich Q on QIG and Twitter. And don't forget on TikTok at Rich Q on the mic. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And as always, we are powered by good friends over at Play It Again Sports. 2 locations, Deptford and Mount Laurel, and our good friends over at Fresh Roasted Coffee. Have a good Friday, everyone. Be safe, be sound. We'll talk to you on Monday, as always, on Rich Quinones. Hasta luego, buen día.